Guys, I'm back. It's midnight. I wanted to, well, first of all, yeah, I managed to make a little bit of room. But I appreciate the comments and the subscribers and just everything. But real quick, I wanted to make this video because I just, if you watched the last video I made a few hours ago, I talked about changing the shock bladders and the fact that you really can't buy, Losi doesn't sell a shock bladder kit, replacements. I knew my shock bladders were in rough shape. I knew one of them was, which is why the shock was an absolute, mess. It was just puking fluid, etc. Long story short, when I pulled the shock apart, I noticed that the nut at the top of the inside the shaft, the nut that holds the valve on, the valve that moves up and down with the holes in it to let the fluid through, that nut was basically completely loose. And I think I showed that in my last video. But what I wanted to show you guys is my King motor, my X2, had bladders in it that looked like this. They were all that deep. Well, the ones that Dan from Rovin King Motor sent me came with the deep rare ones, which from what I understand are the proper ones, and the front ones. So check this out, right? I pull mine out. If you guys have leaking shocks or, in your Losi platform, King Motor, Rovin, maybe they're not performing the way they should, they're leaking. Look how bad those bladders look compared to the new bladders. They weren't even working. I'm going to flip that over and show you what I had in the rear. This was the bad one. You can see it's like, it was so, oh no, this is the bad one. It was so warped, it never sat, and it would just sink right into the shock tube, the shock body. It wouldn't sit at the top of the shock body like it should, and then slide into the grooves on the other side of the, on the top of the shock cap. It has a groove cut into the circumference that this sits in, that the shock cap comes down onto. But I don't know if this video is doing it any justice because I should be over there in the light. Let me take these over in the light. So basically my King motor came with shallow bladders all the way around. These are the ones that were in it. And this is what is supposed to be in it. Look how bad these things were. No wonder why both of my shocks were puking out fluid. So if you guys have problems with the shocks, I know it's not, at this point, it's obvious that these things wear over time, and they just shrink and warp, etc. So buying the $10 kit that they sell from AliExpress may be worth it, but only if it comes with both the deep and the shallow ones, in my opinion. The FID kit, for example, that comes with the O-rings and a rear and a front. So for 16 bucks, that might be a good upgrade. It might be worth the money now that I'm seeing how bad these things look in comparison to a new set. So just as a, I don't know. I just figured I'm always learning from you guys and, always seeing John. I can't say enough. That guy is like a thesaurus of RC. So Bottigel, that is. And, I've been learning a lot from Laurent for a long time. Only fifth scale is always on the grind. So I'm paying attention, man. Not to mention fifth scale Insanity. He's been on the grind lately. So I pay attention, but I figured I'd add that little tidbit because nobody's ever really mentioned that I've seen anyway. And also this this pipe coupler, the Victory RC pipe coupler that DDM sells. Look at that thing, man. That thing is solid compared to what was on the Victory pipe when I got it, which is this really kind of shiny, rubbery piece that doesn't have anything, any internal difference to it. It's basically just, threaded like typical. Internally it's threaded, but this here has this, I'm assuming what is some type of heat resistant, or I don't know, but it's just a lot better. What I expected was this. I expected to get a brand new one of these in the mail from DDM, and I got this. Just the difference in how it feels is amazing. So if you guys are having issues with your pipe coupler, I would definitely recommend that. That is a nice looking piece in comparison to this piece of shit. So that was another little thing I wanted to add. Yeah, so I'm making progress. I got the garage clean for one. Well, clean enough so that I could actually work in here. I got a new bladder put in this shock here. This one was puking everywhere. You can see where it puked down on top of the A-arm and the bumper bracket. So I put a new shock bladder in there. I topped off the fluid. Fluid that was in there was decent. I put the new $10 low-C dog bone in there. I scuffed up the axle, or the hub here, because it was kind of tight coming in and out of the bearing. And I noticed that the bearing was shot. This bearing is, I mean, it's smoked. This was the one that was in it. You can see it's missing the black seal. It gets rocky. I tried to clean it out the other day because I thought I was going to have to use it. But it's got a bunch of sand and shit in it. So long story short, I'll keep it in case I ever absolutely need it. But I happen to have another set. I'm assuming from one of them, something that came off the Robin, another set of bearings that fit. So I threw a new bearing in there, buttoned all this back up, put the shock in. Just need to adjust the collar, clean the shit out of these with I raided the kids' old toothbrush bin. Those are great for cleaning these shocks, man. I just took them right over to this box right over here, because the shit splatters everywhere, as you can see, and I was able to get every bit of sand and clay that was stuck in there off. So that'll do as my little workstation. Yeah, so moving on, I got the back one done. That's what I'm holding in my hand. That has a new bladder on it. Of course, I should, the two new bladders that you see sitting there, that's because this one hasn't been replaced and that one hasn't been replaced. And I should replace them now, but to be honest, I'd rather get the stuff that absolutely needs to be done out of the way done, and I'll deal with it later. So yeah, I'm gonna put this back together, but first I need to take this diff out and get at these cups to replace it with the FLM cups. Change this coupler, change out that pinion, take a look at my clutch while I'm in there, make a decision on that. I'm not sure if I can use. Yeah, it looks like I can use. I can use this pinion with this bell. I'm assuming they, no, maybe not. Yeah, that definitely fits. So that'll definitely fit. So I should be able to use this bell now with the, with that pinion. So yeah, we'll take a look at that clutch that's in there. That was a factory Zenoa clutch that came with the engine. I just replaced they come with a black 6,000 RPM spring, and I took that out, and I had an 8,000. Yeah, I think it's an 8,000 spring. So I put that in there. And that, that stock style clutch, it really takes a beating on this platform. You guys know. So I'm not sure if I'll even get another whole day out of it, to be honest. It takes that much of a beating. But we'll see. And like I said, this clutch here, I know Mad Max puts their name on them. Torex happened to put their name on this one. It was basically sticking on me, and I wasn't sure why. I assumed when I pulled it apart that I would find one of these springs in here was caulked or something to that effect, or that I couldn't, but what I did was I loosened them all up. I put them back in for the most part. I think, I left some of them backed out, but I loosened them up and I moved the shoes back and forth to, to see if they had movement, which obviously they did, because it was sticking at idle. But then once I shut it off and I took it all apart, the clutch was back in this shape. That one of the pads wasn't stuck out, which is what I would have expected. So yeah, it was kind of weird. It was only sticking It was only sticking at idle RPM. Once idle RPM was gone, the shoes retracted. If that makes sense. I don't know. I might sound like a total idiot right now. But I don't know that this clutch, I don't know. I started thinking because I had to cut the bolt that was in this clutch initially. It was too long for the Zenoa engine. And I cut it. And when I put it in, it felt like it went all the way in. In fact, you can see in the headpiece there, the marks, the indentations from the washer. So that tells me it was in all the way, you would think, right? But part of me started questioning, well, was the clutch seated all the way on the actual crankshaft? And if it wasn't, and if it was just a tad bit too loose, maybe the clutch was actually spinning on the crankshaft. And, you know, maybe that's what was causing it to stick at idle, you know? I don't know, but that couldn't have been the case because when I took the clutch off, I would have noticed that it was loose, and I didn't notice that it was loose. Shit, I had to back the clutch housing, I had to loosen the clutch housing bolts from the engine side and pry it off. So, I don't know. I want to use it, but it is what it is. For now, I'll use this stock clutch. I actually have another stock clutch kicking around that has a little bit of life left in it. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm rambling on now. Oh, and these little holes in this bench are ideal, man. You know how hard it is to compress these friggin' shocks. You just push this son of a bitch in there, push the spring down, you can get the perch right on there. Not to mention, when you're waiting for the air bubbles to kick out, or whatever, you know, whatever the case may be, you're rebuilding shocks, doing your shocks, filling them. These holes, perfect, right? I guess they're designed for these little anvil type, you know, heads here, and they also give you with this bench, and this is cheap, guys. This is a Harbor Freight bench. I mean, that vise obviously isn't anything special, but it'll help if you need something held, you know what I mean? But it's a woodworker's bench. The only complaint I really have about it, and again, it was a gift from my parents, so, and they got it with what, you know, I see in mind, what I do, so is the drawers are deep, but they don't open deep. I thought maybe I installed them wrong, but my mother was telling me she has the same bench for her arts and crafts stuff, and that's you know, that's one of her complaints too. So the drawers definitely they don't open deep. You have to reach your hand back in there. See how far my hand goes back? And that's kind of a bummer because you'll end up thinking you lost something, or you know what I mean. No complaints about the Husky toolbox. As a matter of fact, I just sent my brother a thank you card with a family photo that we recently took because I can't thank the guy enough, man. I just can't stop thanking him. I never would have expected my brother to send me some shit like that. But yeah, so I'm rambling on at this point. Thanks again for watching, guys. Stay tuned. I'll have this sucker finished up before the weekend's out, I hope.